The entire concept of senior living is to solve for people to improve their health span. How can we age slowly? So India at an India level is already at 60% nuclearization.
Got
At
it.
an urban India level, it's probably like 74 to 75%. So India is already nuclear, and the trend is it's going to get more and more nuclear. It's about 8%, means 8% of everybody above the age of 60 is staying in a retirement community. In Japan, it's 12%. In Australia, it's 7%. So if you look at some of these factors, in India, it must be 0.001. There are this whole bunch of people who are not in India today who want to ultimately retire in India.
Yeah.
So they are buying it like an investment product or like an insurance for themselves. And for example, in our own communities, if you keep the food out of it, even if you add the common area maintenance like any typical apartment.
What are the things that you would tell them, like, the do's and don'ts, when they're selecting a particular active senior living community?
They don't give any services.
Oh.
So if you look at India, the level of services that we give, whether it is food, whether it is medical, whether it is housekeeping, whether it is concierge, whether it is engagement, it is very, very high compared to a normal community, say in the US. And that as we get older, the things that we value the most are our social connections and the people that we love. And the worst thing that we can do for our parents is to give them a nurse. Again, these are all social conditioning, right?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Desi Return. Today's topic is expert talk on active senior community in India. So today, I'm really, really excited to have Mr. Adarsh on our show. Mr. Adarsh is Managing Director of Primus Life, which is a organization helping seniors have a quality life when they retire. And Primus has been in business for more than 10 years. Lot of knowledge, lot of insights in terms of what's happening in active senior community, what's going on, what trends. And I'm really looking forward to this discussion to understand the ground reality in terms of what's happening in this field and how people who are living abroad can plan their retirement or for their parents' retirement as they think in terms of what are the options available in India. With that, I'm really excited to invite you to our show and glad to have you with us to provide some insights on what's happening in this field and domain.
Thank you, Avinash. Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to share my journey and hopefully make people understand how aging works.
That's fantastic. So, Adarsh, let's get start a little bit about your background and what made you to get into this active senior living community space. It's interesting. So, curious about that.
So yeah, I'm a proud Bangalore boy, born and brought up in Bangalore. Uh, I had this interest when I was studying that I wanted to have an industry. So I landed up doing industrial engineering from RV College of Bangalore, again a very Bangalore institute. But the reason that I started it is of course very different. So the entire reason that I started it was because of my grandmother. I wanted to do something that would make her proud, right? And the backstory to this is something like this. Um, my grandmom has about 11 siblings.
Wow.
We are, South Indians, born, brought up in Bangalore. For us, education is everything, right? I'm not even, from a business family, so to speak. So our focus was, always on education. So all of my grandmom's siblings have children in the US because they're all highly educated. And every time they used to come home, that is my grandmom's sisters, and I'm talking, this is a story way back in 2013 or 2014. They used to tell her, in Kannada, which is our local language, uh, what is, for you, you have a son, you have a grandson. For us, our children are calling us to US. Apparently, there's something special there for old people. It's called retirement housing. But we don't want to go there. It's a cold country. We don't know anybody. And this was the time around which I had finished my education and I was back in India. For my postgraduate, had gone to the UK. And then when I came back, I was dabbling, in regular real estate, right? But while that was good to buy shiny things, it wasn't very satisfying. And I was brought up by my grandmom because my mom and dad started their entrepreneurial journey, after my dad, when my dad was close to 40. So because he struggled for many years, I was brought up by my grandparents, and all of my memory of my childhood is around my grandmother taking care of me. So when she told me, "Hey, why don't you do something?" It was a thing for me that came from a place of saying, "Okay, I will make her proud." So that's when I took a sabbatical from work. And then I went to the US to see what is this old age home that is luxury, right? Because I didn't know better.
Yeah.
And then when I visited and I understood that, hey, this is a place that solves for people to live happier and longer, I felt like, okay, let me do this in India. There is no solution like this, and it'll make my grandmom proud. So I came back and I told her, listen, this is, I'm going to do this and I'm going to take care of your sisters. And we had two of our sisters live with us, until they are no more. And I lost my grandmother in 2015, but we had a first project that was operational by 2015. So yeah, so it started off, like you can say an accident or something in which I said I'll make my grandmom proud. And I never imagined in my wildest dreams that it will become a large business. And it seems to be headed in that direction. So yeah, that's my inspiration and motivation to start this.
No, thanks a lot for sharing. I think it's these kind of experiences that makes you make the decision. And I'm sure you have done fantastic in the last 10, 12 years. And I'm sure your grandmom will be very happy, like, the journey that you had and the services that you're providing to a lot of people in India. So I really appreciate you sharing the story and the reason to start this journey here.
So my factor for decision making even now is very simple. Every time I have to take an important call, I will think in my own mind, will this make my grandmother proud or not proud? And
Yeah.
then that is pretty much how I take most of my decisions.
Wow. Cool. So let's start with the active senior community lifestyle in India, right? Like, what's the trend? Like, what's going on that from your experience, from your insights? I think that would be very helpful.
So, when you introduced me, you used two things. One, you said retirement, and second, you said assisted living. So the first thing that I want to clarify is the word retirement is the biggest disease being sold around the world, right? While people retire typically from what they used to do as a formal structure of employment, if people retire from the things that bring them joy and purpose, that's when there is an onset of difficulties, and that's when it becomes assisted living. So the very purpose of our existence, Avinash, is to allow that not to happen. So we hate this word retirement, which is why we don't call ourselves a retirement community, because nobody retires in our community.
Mm.
They just refine purpose and passion and joy, and they live their best years. At least we try to enable them to live their best years actively.
Yeah.
For the longest time, we have been measuring this lifespan, right? People are born, you get birth certificate. People die, you get death certificate. This is called lifespan. Unfortunately, nobody is measuring health span. Right?
Mm.
What is health span? Health span is the number of years that you lived independently and actively.
Yeah.
Means you didn't depend on anybody. And at Primus, and the entire concept of senior living is to solve for people to improve their health span. How can we age slower? How can we die on our feet at our own terms, not at anybody, not in a hospital bed, for example. So I think that is the first difference in terms of what the solutioning is. And essentially what we create when we call a senior living, or when we call a project for senior living, is we are trying to create, these mini blue zones where people can age slower. Because the fundamental reason for a person to think about moving into a retirement community is not because their health is bad, or because of some issue in terms of one of the health of one of the family members, or that their maid didn't show up or their cook didn't show up. The fundamental solve is that you can live in a place where you can slow down your aging and live actively. Right? I'll talk to you a little bit about what a blue zone is. So a blue zone is an area or a village where the average lifespan or health span of a person is above 100,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mm.
right? And there are six such blue zones around the world. There's one in Okinawa in Japan. There is Loma Linda in California. There is Sardinia in Italy, and whole bunch of other places. Now, if you look at the unique nature of this blue zone. People are living in different climatic conditions, different genetic pools, different food habits, different cultural habits.
Yeah.
The only different weather conditions. The only common factor is they're all living, above 100.
Yeah.
So there was this Japanese researcher who went and lived in all of these blue zones and wrote this book, and
Yes.
that's called Ikigai.
Yeah.
And this is something that I highly, highly encourage the viewers of your show to read. It's age agnostic, right? It's got nothing to do with whether you're 30 or 60. Uh, it tells you how you can look at life to slow down your own process of aging, right?
Yeah.
And fundamentally, that book tells five common factors between these blue zones, right? And those five common factors are: one, it found that people in all of these areas are physically active. Two, it found that they are mentally active or they're mentally stimulated. Three, it found that there's a strong sense of community. There is reason for people to hang with other people, family members, so on and so forth. Four, it found that nature was part of their everyday life. And five, and the most important one, it said that people here have a strong sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And there's a smaller fringe one, which is only applicable in Okinawa, where they found that people eat only 70% of the stomach's capacity. So that one believes that you should not fill yourself up in every meal. So now, if you look back at these five pillars of aging: physical activity, mental activity, community, purpose, and nature. And now think in your own mind about all the people that you know who are elderly, right? And you look at, let's give you an example of COVID, right? Because in COVID, a lot of us didn't see the people we love for like a couple of years. And after you met them 2 years later, some people look exactly like how they were 2 years ago. Some people look like they'd aged 10 years in 2 years. Think about these five factors. Think about the people in your life for whom this is very strong.
Yeah.
And think about the people for whom it's not strong. Then the answer is very evident. The people who are aging slower around you right now are following these basic principles of Ikigai without knowing, but that's the best way to do it,
Yeah.
right? And unfortunately, the ones who are, getting old very fast are typically isolated. They're not socially active. They're not, mentally or physically active. So that's the basic philosophy of a senior living project, that we are enabling
Yeah.
a place where people can live the principles of a blue zone. And on top of that, we're putting in proactive health and we're giving in right nutrition. And
Got it.
that's what makes a senior living community, right? It's not that it is a physical building that you buy a house at a certain price
Yeah.
and then that house is either going to appreciate or not. Is not the solution. The solution is that you move into a place where you can age slower and you can have fun in the process and you don't retire.
Perfectly makes sense. So thanks for clarifying some of these key terminologies and what's happening. So along the same lines, having that healthy lifestyle, having that age slow. What's happening in India? Like what are the trends? Like what's going on in terms of building these blue zones or these active communities across India.
So there are two, three large trends, Avinash. The first trend is India is getting nuclear. Would you know what the current nuclearization rate is in India?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's going up because a lot of people are moving to metro for jobs, professionals, or like yeah, compared to what I used to grow up. Yeah,
So India at a India level is already at 60% nuclearization.
got it.
At an urban India level, it's probably like 74 to 75%. So India is already nuclear, and the trend is it's going to get more and more nuclear,
Mhm.
right? So I think the largest driver of the solution is the nuclearization of families. The second large driver is financially independent elders. So for the longest time, the elders have been in the survival mode.
Mm.
Oh, I need to save for myself. I need to save for my kids. I brought up my kids, but now I want to also give something to my grandkids. Now the children are financially independent. The children are financially sufficient. So there is no pressure on the elder to provide for their children in any form. And the children are encouraging their parents saying, "Arey, Jilo, yaar, enjoy your life. Why are you saving? Why are you saying I want to pay 10 rupees? I will go by bus, I'll not go by auto, or I'll not go by Uber, right? Please enjoy your life. We are fine. We want you to be happy."
Yeah,
So this is the second thing, that now elders have children who are encouraging them to use their liquidity that they have worked very, very hard for, and saying, please enjoy your life. Do not try, do not keep saving and giving it to us. We don't need the money. We want you to be happy.
Yeah.
And the third large trend is we are seeing that the women of the house also want to retire from household chores.
Yeah.
So the women are saying, okay, boss, you worked for 50, 60 years. We're grateful for that. Now you're sitting and forwarding WhatsApp and watching TV and reading newspaper. I am still doing the same stuff I used to do, right?
Yeah.
Calling the cook, managing the maid, managing 100 other things. Nahi karna hai. We don't want to do it. So these are, some of the large factors. And the fourth one is there are newer innovative models. Like we pioneered this concept of multi-generation housing, where we started putting senior living as part of larger projects. So you'll have a few towers of regular housing and one or two towers of senior living. So families can live together and apart at the same time. I call that multi-generation or nuclear joint family,
Yeah.
which I think informally we're already seeing in many ways. So we're putting a formal structure to it and we're overlaying our services that we provide on top. So, these are some of the larger reasons why this business is, growing. The other thing is if you look at penetration rates globally for this business, for example, in the US, retirement housing, what they call retirement housing or senior living, sometimes they call it 55 plus active adult
Yeah.
living. Uh, it's about 8%, means 8% of everybody above the age of 60 is staying in a retirement community. In Japan, it's 12%. In Australia, it's 7%. So if you look at some of these factors in India, it must be 0.00 whatever, like a really tiny number. So this is going to become the norm, right? As people understand that it's a lifestyle solution and that we don't need to be burdened by emotional perception about what we used to think it is.
Yes.
Because we have been conditioned by Bollywood movies and society to think of senior living as a vridhashram or an old age home
Yeah.
where parents and children don't get along. Oh, they must be financially, not okay. And once people come and visit one of these, they'll realize that it's a solution that it's like living in a 3-star or a 5-star hotel where everything happens in a touch of a button.
Yes.
And more than anything, it is the whole philosophy of slowing down aging.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are the larger trends. I would say penetration rates, nuclearization, multi-generation housing, and the onset of the service model. Right? When you see how senior living started, initially it started off as a solution of real estate, saying, "Okay, you're a bunch of old people. We'll put you all together in a housing complex and we'll give you basic services. Like if you want a doctor, you pick up the phone, you call, we'll send a doctor. If you want something." So the service was not inbuilt into the solution.
Yeah.
But if you see folks like us today, the service is more important than the housing solution.
For sure.
We look at, I'll talk to you in more detail about health and how we look at it. But healthcare, nutrition, concierge, housekeeping, events, common area, everything is blended into one package such that, it's a very service heavy business that solves for a life of convenience and ease.
Yeah. No, definitely makes sense from the trends and why it's important. And then, it's the perception that people have. And once they realize it, this is the solution, because of the different needs.
I missed out on one trend. Let me just add to that.
Sure.
The last trend that we are seeing is there are this whole bunch of people who are not in India today who want to ultimately retire in India.
Yeah.
So they are buying it like an investment product or like an insurance for themselves. So instead of buying a second home in India, they're buying a senior living project. And then they're renting it out to elders till such time they need it. Or
Yeah.
they're saying, asking their parents, do live here for 10 years. I'll come to India in 10, 15 years. And then I'll stay in that house. We already have one ancestral property, right? I don't want to again buy more regular real estate in India. I would much rather buy this, that gives me an option to come and move whenever I wish to retire.
Perfectly makes sense. And someone who lived in abroad, who is
Yeah.
has that kind of comforts, who want to have that kind of a lifestyle, it perfectly makes sense.
Oh, the comforts and lifestyle is far ahead of that you get in
That's
abroad.
right.
I can guarantee you that because I have visited a lot of countries. I visited a lot of housing for seniors as well as regular housing. I
Yeah,
can tell you that the level of services that we offer in India is unparalleled anywhere in the world.
that's
Only because we can afford
yes,
to.
great. Along the same lines, if someone is looking into these options in India, right? I think, yeah, one is the blue zones and the different aspects. What are the different communities and services that are offered in India today?
Right. So broadly, Avinash, if you look at senior living as an overall sector, it can be broken into three pieces. There's active living,
Yeah.
there is assisted living, and there is nursing care or
Mm.
palliative care. Okay. In active living, it is a solution for people like you and me. right? It's just that we want a layer of convenience, but we don't need any help in our life
Like,
on an everyday basis, right? Which is the largest piece of this industry. Maybe 95% of it is here. Then there's something called assisted living. It's for people who are not able to do things on their own, right? It could be, dementia. It could be various neurological conditions. It could be orthopedic conditions that is making mobility limited, or there is some other onset of an health issue.
yeah,
So it requires bedside care. The third one called palliative is more terminal in nature. Okay, there is an oncology case in which there's a certain time period given for life. So then how do you treat that person? It's more psychological, it's less medical. So that is called palliative care. So this is the, the broad spectrum of the care. And there are a whole bunch of companies also like ours who provide solutions even in their own home.
yeah,
So there are age tech companies that provide different solutions. So there are companies that provide housing solutions, and housing can be into three pieces. Then there are companies that are providing assistance and technology solutions at home, improvement of home, travel, services around healthcare, services around engagement, services around re-employment, services around technology to monitor falls, etc., etc. So there are a whole bunch of players, around this ecosystem.
got it. So I think you have talked about these active senior communities, like 95% of the people are, using these senior communities. So would love to understand a little bit about the differences within this space, like the kind of communities, the services that are offered, the cost associated with it, so that we get an idea in terms of the options within this space in India.
Right. So I spoke to you earlier about the different types of community. I'll focus now on the active senior living, which is the biggest piece, right? Within that, as far as costing is concerned, there are two pieces to it. There is the housing cost and there is the services cost, right? As far as the housing cost is concerned, it will be similar to any real estate project within that micro market.
Yeah,
But it will be a little more expensive simply because more goes into it. For example, there's a medical center, there is a kitchen, there's a restaurant, there are larger common areas. Within the units, there are additional specifications like safe bathrooms, safe flooring, right infrastructure, emergency management systems, and various other improvements over a traditional home. So that is priced, in that fashion. However, the services, which are really the reason that people choose this, is something that people should spend time in understanding. What are the services? How much are they currently paying for living in their own homes? And that will give a good, metric to measure. Because services in a retirement community or a senior living community is guaranteed, unlike in our own houses, right? We can't guarantee our own services because one day your cook comment may show up, may not show up. Consistency of work may be very different. But when it's run professionally, it's going to be very different. So the cost for the services would be similar to what one would pay in their own house. For example, at Primus, we bundle the cost of the medical team, the kitchen team, the housekeeping team, the events team, and the concierge team. And then we distribute it by the number of people who are using those services. And we do a cost plus 20% open book model. And we keep everybody on our rolls and we transparently give information about how each of the costs are built up so people are aware.
yeah,
Our objective is to create transparency and not, to increase our margins. And that's the reason that it's done. And for example, in our own communities, if you keep the food out of it, even if you add the common area maintenance like any typical apartment, would land up being around 6 to 8,000 rupees a month, right? Think of it like 2 to 3 rupees a square feet. And then another about 10,000 rupees a month would be for the additional services we give, which are your medical center, your fixed cost of your F&B, your housekeeping, your events, and concierge team. So for a couple, if they do not choose an F&B package, it will be around 15 to 18,000 a month. And if they add the F&B package on top of that, we charge around 6,500 rupees per person per month for three full meals and three half meals.
yeah.
So for two people, with everything included, we are at about 35,000 rupees a month
Got it.
with GST. So it is very similar to what they would spend in their own house. But the advantage is that the services are guaranteed.
Got it. Understood. So next, I think switch gears a little bit. So for people who are living in abroad, right? I think they might be thinking about moving to India after they're done with their hectic work, or maybe they're thinking about their parents back in India. So what are the things that you would tell them, like, the do's and don'ts, when they're selecting a particular active senior living community? What are the things that they should look for? What are the things that they should watch out from your own perspective?
So I think the first thing and the most important thing is the customer satisfaction of people in the existing community, right? Because that is the real measure of understanding if a person is a service company or they're a real estate company. So that would be, for me, on top of the list is to understand the solution after people moving.
Yeah.
It's not about the cost of the house, because when people try to sell you a cheaper house, it typically means that the service layer is very thin. So the purpose of moving itself gets defeated. Because if people are not happier, if they're not part of the community, if they don't feel healthier, what is the point of moving into a retirement community? You could be in your own house, right? So I think that the first one is the layer of services and the satisfaction. And the second one is the experience and the background of the person who's delivering it and their track record. Okay, fine. How long have these guys been around? How many people are they taking care of? Are they saying good things? Are they not saying good things? Right. And third is, how many services are there here? What are the kind of healthcare services? What are the kind of F&B options? What are the protocols that are kept for uh, taking care of housekeeping and various other things? So typically a visit to one community would answer a lot of these questions. So I would always encourage people to go visit an active community where there are elders and the company has been running it, to give a real life idea of how things are on the ground.
So thanks, Adarsh, for sharing the insights about, I think, people who are living in abroad and what to choose. So continuing in that, I know there are some concerns from people who are living abroad in related to regulations in India. Like, when we talk about these active senior communities in abroad versus in India, like, can you talk a little bit about some of the differences, some of the concerns regarding the regulations? I think that would be very helpful.
So, Avinash, as you know, it's a very nascent stage of the industry in India. Like every nascent business, regulation normally follows business as it gets large. However, that being said, the housing solution is already over-regulated with RERA and with a whole bunch of other government bodies that are involved. As far as the services are concerned, currently there are some regulations in terms of what are the kind of housing that will be defined as senior housing in a few states. And for the services piece, there is an industry body called Association of Senior Living India, or ASLI, which has appointed Grant Thornton to go out and do independent assessments of communities. And they can choose to get certified as giving good standards of service. So, for example, Primus communities are already certified by Grant Thornton, and few other people are there. So, over a period of time, we do believe that more regulation will come, which is a good thing, right? So, right now, people don't know yet what to regulate, and it is going to happen. As far as the West and the rest of the world is concerned, uh, there is a there is a when I speak to my industry peers abroad, because of over regulation, they don't give any services.
Oh.
So if you look at India, the level of services that we give, whether it is food, whether it is medical, whether it is housekeeping, whether it is concierge, whether it is engagement, it is very, very high compared to a normal community, say in the US. So if you look at the US as a market, because of over-regulation, they have more or less withdrawn all services. Because if they get over-regulated, companies are scared to give service, customers don't get the service.
Yeah.
So a typical active senior living community today in the US does nothing other than provide a house.
Hmm.
They will have one central restaurant. You have to go to the restaurant. You have to look at the menu. You have to order what you want. You pay for it market rates, which means it's not sustainable to eat there every day. It's
Yes.
like a fully outsourced restaurant. And that's it. If you want housekeeping, you have to call some number. They will send somebody once in a while. If you want medical services, you have to call the 911 helpline. If you want something else, so it's like living in a regular apartment, but they have just made the common areas.
Yeah.
But in India, you will actually find that the people here are giving, much higher services. We are closer to China when it comes to level of services than the US or the Japan. This is as far as active living is concerned.
Yeah.
The assisted living piece is service heavy, but because it's backed by Medicare, it's backed by NHS, it's backed by all the government related insurance agencies, the level of service is high because the companies get paid by the government.
Yeah.
Which is also a problem statement in India currently, right? So yeah, that's a little bit about how this stacks up globally.
Got it. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. Now, I just want to switch the gears a little bit and want to understand how the technology is helping out in this space and the healthcare, right? Maybe you can shed some light. I think you kind of gave an indication earlier, like in the home elderly care, but would love to hear something happening in that space.
So let me first talk a little bit about healthcare in general and
Yeah.
how we, at Primus and Mercy look at healthcare. For the longest time, we have all been conditioned to be reactive to health,
Mm.
right? Something goes wrong, we go to a doctor, the doctor will prescribe some tests, and then we go get those tests done. Then he will look at the test, oh, this is not okay. And then he'll be prescribe some medication. And then this is a vicious cycle that keeps repeating. And one fine day, a person will find out that the condition is so advanced that it cannot be reversed. And from there, it's all bad. Now, if you switch that on the head and say that I will make a plan in which I will test myself on a regular basis for certain things that I'm more likely to be able to because of my age, the chances that you find something that is wrong with you in stage one or
Mm.
in a stage where it can be fully cured are very high.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Primus, what we do is we run these preventive healthcare plans wherein we can find underlying conditions in stage one so we improve health span.
Yeah.
Right? If there is a development of the disease, you can only manage symptoms, you can't cure it. But if you catch it on day one, think of, like, for example, we are all very okay to say that, oh, I changed my knee, or I got a knee replacement surgery for dad or mom. We are not okay to question why was it needed? Why didn't we do physiotherapy? Why didn't we find other ways? And when, say, unfortunately, some cancer is caught later, we're very happy to spend stupid amounts of money to try to hope and fight that. But you could have easily caught cancer in stage one by just doing regular tests. If I do uh, a CT, if I do a DEXA scan of the body, I can probably find muscle loss. I can find many other underlying conditions. So what we do at Primus is we have a bunch of healthcare markers, we have physiotherapy markers, and we have psychosocial markers. And then we develop a health score. And then we actively monitor people to keep them healthier and to keep them active so that we can catch things in stage one.
Yeah.
And this is something that, we're very proud of. We're the only ones in the country who do it. We started it first. A bunch of people are now following us, but we were the first ones to put a preventive healthcare plan out there. And that's one of the key differentiators for us. And then I would encourage all the consumers of your podcast to think about this for their parents. How do I get my parents on a preventive plan where there is a discipline to how I test them, how I look at the physiotherapy health, how I look at their community health, and then, suggest ways in which I can make sure that, my parents live actively and healthily for longer.
Yeah.
So I think that is the larger point around health. And your question specifically was what
In
earlier?
terms of the technology, like how it's being utilized. Yeah.
So when it comes to technology, again, there are two things, right? Number one is healthcare related technology. Number two is ancillary technology. So for healthcare, we would be using a combination of wearables and non-wearables within the house and within our medical center to continuously pull data and then use it to find underlying conditions, right? For example, number of times you went to the bathroom, the way you slept, your heart recovery rate. This gives us an indication, plus the blood markers that we do. So we're using technology to give us an earlier sign of an underlying condition. The second piece of the technology and the second biggest reasons for early mortality in elders is falls. So our job is to prevent falls.
Yeah.
You must have heard enough stories where somebody you fell down and life was never the same and they passed away.
Exactly.
So health quality of life severely changes, in case of a fall. So we have to stop it. And we stop it through both physiotherapy and through having, prevention devices for fall. So when we do a physiotherapy assessment, we are able to tell, okay, how much of weight is being put on which leg, how is the muscle density, and then we are able to improve their gait to be able to reduce the chance of falling down.
Yeah.
Right? And we technology wise, we put these fall sensors within the home. So in God forbid there is a fall, we're able to attend to them much faster than if they were, in some other ecosystem.
Yes.
So technology is being used primarily in finding underlying conditions and in preventing falls. And the third piece of technology is convenience, right? You can request stuff on WhatsApp. We are now in the process of building our own app wherein everything can be viewed and monitored from a single place. And this will be both accessible to the children and to the parent. And then the parent can decide how much of it they want to give to their kids in terms of view.
Yeah.
So this is the role of technology in elder care. As far as Primus is concerned, we also have another company called Merzi, which is a solution for people who are not living in Primus communities and in their own house. There, we are building an AI companion. We use technology to do healthcare plans, because since we're giving healthcare at home, we're using a lot of AI at the back end to look at medical data to showcase, where there may be underlying conditions and to suggest better quality outcomes.
Got it.
We're also using technology to integrate the entire spectrum of care and to be a one point of contact, for various requirements that an elderly couple or their children may have.
Got it. No, I think that's a very a solid in terms of preventive care, like something that was detected early in stage one is much easier to manage and cure compared to what it's later. And it's good to know that you have put a formal plan and a process kind of being setting a leading the path there. Um, so one follow-up question that I wanted to check was, I know earlier you mentioned that people can buy and lease it for the parents or someone. So if someone is living abroad and they are not planning to change the purpose of the life, right, they're still busy with the work, does Primus also help in leasing their units to someone else, or is it something that they have to do on themselves? So just wanted to get that
No, no,
clarification.
absolutely. There are, like I told you, there are two motivations for NRIs to look at senior housing as an investment. The first motivation is that they want a solution for themselves when they get older. The second motivation is also that the rental returns are very high. It's about 30% more than a regular housing, because there are these thousands and thousands of elders who get a pension of maybe a lakh or two a month, but who may not have a crore to invest. So they're very happy to rent these units, and we at Primus are the conduit to help people fill it up. So there's always massive, massive demand for renting. So we have a lot of people who buy it as an investment product and rent it out until such time they need it. And we, oversee the entire process and help them out.
Got it. No, thanks for clarifying that. So finally, Adarsh, any advice from your perspective for people who are considering to change their purpose or like the lifestyle uh, after living several years in abroad and moving to India? Any final thoughts that you want to share for them?
So the thing that I have learned from my interaction with my own family and friends who are living abroad is India never leaves you. You may leave India, India never leaves you because it is home. And that as we get older, the things that we value the most are our social connections and the people that we love. Because you're born in a country where your family is, and you grew up with a certain set of people, the majority of the people that you love land up being in India, which is the hook to get it back, come back. So we have seen that that desire is very strong, and people want to come back primarily for that. And once they come back, because they've worked so hard, because they've brought up, another generation, they've settled their kids, they want a life of convenience, which is why solutions like ours is something that people prefer. So there's no advice at all to be given here. I think it's very natural. The advice I would give, if at all, it's a big word, advice, is to start looking at aging not as kids who need to force their parents to live in a certain way or advise them to live in a certain way. Because we have ageism as one of the many problems, right? Act your age, behave your age, is umar mein ye mat karo. No, please remove all these notions. Elders are just like us. They want joy. They want to be surrounded by people of different ages. They want to have fun. They want to have ambition. They have their own passions. Please, please, please do not say, don't do this, don't do that. Encourage your parents to live as actively and as independently as possible. The second thing is, please think of preventive healthcare as a way of living. It's the most important advice I can give is that find a way to check up on the health and well-being of your parents. And third is, think about the blue zones always. Are your parents physically active? Are they mentally stimulated? Do they have a sense of purpose? Do they know what they want to do every day? Are they surrounded by friends and family? If the answer is no to some of these things, what can you do as a child? Because you love your parents, what can you do? How can you help them be more social? How can you help them be more active? Think about it. It's not necessarily about moving them to another community.
Yeah.
It could just be solving it in their own house. But this is something that people need to understand because we don't understand age. And the worst thing that we can do for our parents is to give them a nurse. Again, these are all social conditioning, right? Unfortunately, what does a nurse do?
Yeah.
The nurse makes the parent dependent on them. The parent loses the sense of independence. And that's what, unfortunately brings the onset of many other conditions.
Yeah.
Because a well-trained nurse is saying, don't do anything, I will do everything for you. Don't sit, don't stand, I will feed you, I will bathe you. But that's not what is good for our parents.
Yeah.
And this understanding, takes a lot of study around aging to know that we have to promote our parents being independent and making their own decisions because that is what will slow down their aging, not our over interference in their life. What they need us children for is emotional support and meaningful conversation. They don't need us for anything else.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's our job.
no, perfectly makes sense. No, thanks a lot for a lot of insights, especially in this aging and the critical things, how we should all look like to make our purpose, the 5 aspects that you talked about. So, where can they find more information about what Primus is doing in this space and how Primus is helping out? What's the best way for them to reach out, or anything that you can share on that?
So, we run two platforms. One is called Primus and one is called Marzi. In Primus, we develop senior housing and multi-generation communities where people can buy and live in a secure and safe place where they can age slower.
If you are interested in the projects from Primus, please fill out the form in the description below. Someone from the team will reach out to you immediately.
Marzi is a platform for active agers to age in their own house. So we do things like travel, we do companionship, we do concierge, we do preventive healthcare plans, we do a whole bunch of things. And that is marzi.life. So they can look it up. So this is a little bit, around what I do.
So thanks a lot, Adarsh, for your time, for sharing these insights. I learned a lot, I think, in terms of the options available in India and how one should look at as they age, right? I think, how they should rethink or reframe, like, the thought process, even for themselves or for their parents. And we will share the link on the way to reach out to Primus or Merzi in the description below. And thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Avinash, and thank you for those of you listening to me. And yeah, it was nice chatting. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.